I want most of us to consider the possibility that we don't really have scale problems. What we have are speed problems, which we like to pretend are scale problems because they don't sound like our fault. The thing is, the web, I'm going to show some science, but the web is a scale-free network. Okay, and what that means is, if you imagine this chart here as being the busiest sites in this end and the least busy in this end, and if we zoom in this chart, it always goes like this. So the busiest sites are very, very much more busy than the least busy sites. So maybe GitHub's up here, Facebook, maybe some of our stuff's down here. If you just go down this chart, then how this works out, 80% of traffic is visiting the top 20% of sites. But as we zoom in and we zoom in and we zoom in, the percentage doesn't go down in terms of the traffic as quickly as the percentage of sites. So 20% of traffic is visiting 0.00128% of sites. So what do I mean by speed? Speed is really about giving your end users the best possible experience. It's about they visit the site, boom, stuff comes back. Scalability is purely about capacity. It's just about being able to service as many customers as possible. Now, ideally what you want is both, but I think the best place to start is with speed rather than with scalability techniques. Let me just explain that. I shouldn't have put blank slides in this. The thing is that most scalability problems or fixes won't actually improve speed. Now, some might, but most won't. So if you have a box and you add an extra couple of cores to it, all that really means is you're going to be slow to more people at once. It's not a speed fix. The only way to fix your speed issues is really to fix your code and maybe catching, but fix your code is the most important, most consistent, most reliable one. The first thing you want to do is find out what's going on, okay? Use profiling tools, use the Xdebug. Oops. Never use a room control if you don't understand. Use the Xdebug profile. Expect the laser, then it's not what happened. Use Xhprof. These things will give you a nice view of these functions have been run X amount of times and taking Y amount of seconds. Hopefully not seconds. If we're talking about seconds, you have problems. The MySQL slow query log as well. That can just take any queries that are slow, stick them into the log, you can have a look. The important thing is you want to have numbers. Otherwise, you're just going to be banging about in your site, no idea what's going on whatsoever. And that's not what you want. The next slide is going to be patronising, I apologise. You should do that stuff on your site. I'm very serious with this. Whenever somebody visits your page, you want to do the minimum amount of stuff to get them the results. So, are you logging all the stuff you don't need to log? Don't do that. I'm not going to talk about, oh, this loops faster than that loop or anything like that. That's not why I'm in front of you. Let me consult my notes. Stuff is always computationally expensive. So think, is it worth doing this thing on this particular page request? And if you can defer stuff whenever somebody isn't waiting for it, then that's great. So for example, if you have a contact form, it's a very simple example. Contact form sends an email. You don't necessarily want to wait until the email is actually sent to get a result. Just pop the fact that you're going to send an email into a database, have a Q or a cron, send it in a minute, whatever, so nobody's waiting on to get the result. Simple things like that. The main thing is get the result back as quickly as possible. Don't log stuff that's going right, log stuff that's going wrong, that sort of thing. This is all basic. Databases. You've got to have your stuff indexed properly, check the queries. There's a really useful syntax that MySQL has called explain. It does what it says. Explain query gives you an explanation of exactly what MySQL is going to do. Now, some frameworks will sort of take over the SQL for you, and that's okay. You might be able to influence them to write the query in a different way, go a particularly slow one. But don't be afraid to step in and actually just say, you know what, stuff this, I'm going to write it myself. Some frameworks won't give you tight control of your data structure. You may know that's a particular bugbear of mine. I have views on that. But that's obviously very problematic if you want to go in and you have a particularly slow query and you have to write something basically insane. The final part is reuse your prepared statements. Now, there's an argument to be made if you're running the same query a bunch of times that you shouldn't be. That's true, but if you have to, reuse your prepared statement, prepare it once, execute it a bunch of times. You would not, by the way, that's not just a PHP thing, that's the same on mobile devices, same on anything. You would not believe the difference that makes. Resources as well. Now, resources not PHP at all, obviously. Make sure they're not huge. Make sure they don't load if they don't have to. Tips ruin everything. Not that everyone puts a tip on the website, but you might work really, really hard. You get your HTML rendered sent back to the end user in a millionth of a second, and then your front end guys put like a massive PNG of something on the site. It's 3 megabytes, means that the page isn't rendered on the browser for a minute and a half. You know what? End user doesn't care that your HTML came back in a second. They don't care that you've optimized all your queries. They don't care that you're doing all this great stuff. All they care about is site slow. So you've got to fix this stuff. This isn't irrelevant to you if you're not a front-end developer. It is relevant to you. It's relevant to us all. Caching is an interesting one. Caching can improve speed for most people most of the time. But if you have a fundamentally slow site and then you use caching to make a slow site into a fast site instead of making a fast site into a faster site or making a faster site into a site that's more scalable, you're going to get weird slow bits. You're going to get a really horrible dev experience because you can't really develop on the thing without caching, which is not what you want. You want to be able to switch off caching, but not actually switch off caching, in my view. So yeah, by all means, cache everything you can, but you don't want to be relying on caching for speed, although it can have a benefit in speed. It should be the only real way to fix your code. New versions of PHP are important. You should be using the latest you can anyway, but PHP 7 is going to be much quicker than 5.6. But you know what, if you've got a query that's taking 10 seconds to run, it's still going to take 10 seconds to run in PHP 7. It's just the way it is. I'm going to show you a benchmark result that shows how quick PHP 7 is, and this is really a scalability test rather than a speed test, but it's because PHP 7 is quick. This is a particular benchmark on loading the front page on the WordPress site. And you can see PHP 5.6 was able to deal with 262 requests per second. PHP 7 on the same box, 545. This one here is HHVM. On this suite of test benchmarks, some were faster in HHVM, some were faster in PHP 7. PHP 7 is going to be very, very quick, but it's not going to save you from yourself. If you write something that's slow, it's not going to be super fast in PHP 7 just because PHP 7 is faster. So, the thing about all this stuff is it's inherently obvious to us all why we should make our pages as quick as possible and probably as scalable as possible as well. This is maybe a speaking topic, let's be honest about it. But you have to persuade people who decide what you're going to do with your time. And I would mention two big reasons why we should care about this. One is customer satisfaction and abandonment. How many of us have abandoned the site because it's just slow? Exactly, so it was about half a dozen hands there. I just spent a few more, to be honest. The other one is search engine optimization. People love search engine optimization. Google have a tool called PageSpeed, which will complain if your site is loading up. If it doesn't get a response from the main characters of your HTML, 0.2 a second, it will complain. Now, I don't know when exactly Google started penalising for slow sites, but they do correctly penalise for slow sites. They penalise for slow sites because it's less good for the end user if the site is slow. So they're right to do that. So what I would say is, if you have a site that's slow and you know that you need to get it fast, but you don't have any time to make it happen, it's not allocated to you, take a minute or two trying to work out as much detail as possible on what you need to do, on what the benefits are going to be, to try and persuade business owners to do it. If you just walk in and say, we need to make a site fast because, you know, it's going to be like this, you just go down the road, yeah, we can make it faster. I'm not getting on that horse. And if I'm a business owner, I'm not spending time, spending money on making something faster for no reason. So you've got to have your reasons. Listen, if you want to see this talk done properly, that for our talk is, some parts of my talk are based on that stuff, but that for our talk is absolutely fantastic. He gave it at PHP Northwest, I think, 2014. He goes into compilers and so on, but the first 8 minutes of that talk in particular are absolutely brilliant. There's a big list of PHP benchmarks. Now they're using that same benchmark, which is where that WordPress one came from. So you might be able to use that to persuade people to upgrade to PHP 7 quickly. Please do that anyway. So you might be able to find your framework. The other one is whatdoesmysitecost.com. This is a very interesting little site. You can put in your URL and it will tell you how much data is going to be downloaded and somebody visits that site, which isn't too innovative, but it'll tell you how much that actually costs for people using mobile devices in countries around the world. The thing is that we talk about accessibility and we think of it purely as can people with visual impairments, sound impairments, whatever, use the website. But financially, it's a problem as well. If you're marketing your site all over the world and people have very expensive data plans, well, you don't want to be unaffordable. If you really enjoyed the talk, you should publicly tweet me on @Ryan Kilfedder. If you thought it was nonsense, then please tell me privately. And that is everything. Thank you very much.